Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Kelly and today we're going to be deconstructing a quote that I heard last week by the actor Timothee Chalamet. So I heard this quote when I was watching an interview with Timothee Chalamet and Zendaya when they were being interviewed for the movie Dune. Been a big fan of Dune ever since David Lynch did it ages ago. And so, of course, I watched the new ones. But this quote in the interview was very surprising because the interviewer asked whether Timothy believed in fate and destiny in real life. And he answered in a very deep way. The quote was, "You can be the master of your fate and the captain of your soul, but you have to realize that life comes from you and not at you, and that takes time." And I was blown away, as everyone in the interview room probably was, and anyone who hears it. So today we're going to be deconstructing and explaining what that quote actually means, because it's such a good one. So the first part of the quote comes from a poem by William Ernest Henley called Invictus, and he wrote this in 1875. The lines from the poem are actually, "I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul." And this means that we are not completely ruled by fate. We're not dictated to by what happens in the world, in life. We are actually the drivers of our own life. And so things that we do, things that we choose to think, things that we choose to believe, and actions that we choose to do are what determines our life. Ultimately, all of these things determine who we are. So we determine the course of our life, or the fate and destiny of our life. That's the first bit of the quote. The second part of the quote, you have to realize that life comes from you, not at you, and that takes time. I researched the original author of this part of the quote, and I couldn't find it. I couldn't find who originally said this. But it segues nicely into something I've been teaching my students for many years now, which is life supports us, it doesn't punish us. The two quotes aren't exactly the same, but they're very similar, especially the part that says life doesn't come at us. Very similar to what I say about life is not there to punish us, because many people feel that life comes from outside of us, things that happen outside of us and come towards us without any choice on our part. Many people think this is what life is, that it's just a series of random happenings that we have to endure at best, suffer through, and that many people think life is a punishment or a chore to get through. But this is not true. Life circumstances are difficult, yes, but they're there to give us the opportunity to make choices with our thoughts, with our actions, that will evolve us. That's the aim. If there were no challenges or difficulties, we wouldn't have the impetus to change ourselves for the better. It's only through suffering and challenges that our evolution can take place. I often hear people saying, why do bad things happen to good people? And this is echoing the idea that life is punishment. But life and life circumstances and the opportunities are a gift to us. So it's a much better perspective, and it's more of the truth to see challenges like this. The second part of the quote, that life comes from us, is really beautiful and the truth. And it makes me think of a quote by Eckhart Tolle that I really like. He says, "We don't have a life, we are life." And so he refers to the material life in the world as life circumstances. Carl Jung called it our shadow side. All the unconscious, conditioned beliefs we have about ourselves that are untrue. But many people in this lifetime, especially in childhood, are treated badly, and nobody really escapes this in their life altogether. It's just what levels we encounter of bad treatment. But along our lifetime, we will be told that we are not good enough, not doing enough, not productive enough, not worthy enough. And when we believe these things about ourselves, then negative emotions will arise within us, such as anger and shame, resentment. If those negative emotions are allowed to stay there, they will grow and build. So this becomes our shadow side. Ultimately, the things that we are really believing and feeling about ourselves deep down, but we push them away, we push them aside and try and hide them, pretend they're not there. That's why it's called the shadow. So we journey through life. Everything that comes to us, at us, in our life circumstances is really a reflection of us, our inner life, our inner self. So it's called in ancient times the wheel of karma, in more modern times the hero's journey. And we go towards the light side of ourself by consciously identifying and letting go of our shadow side and accessing the divine side of us. Because we are, many scientists won't say this, but it's true, we are not just physical, material being, we are also energetic soul being, the divine side of us. This is what will overcome ultimately the shadow side. We go towards that light side, and it's the more difficult side to go towards. The dark side is much, much easier to go towards, but it's a very short-term gain, and a long-term doesn't have a reward. The light side is short-term difficulty and long-term reward, because you ultimately become, because you're the master of your fate, the captain of your soul, you can choose what you become in this life. And so going towards the divine side of us is very important. And this life circumstance is, many people say now, it's a simulation. And the older I become and the more research I do, the more I see that that is true. The outside circumstances, material side of life feels really real, but ultimately it's not real. We know we will die and all of this will fade away because it's not everlasting. It's a simulation, I feel, that has been created so that we can come in here, forget that we have come from the time between lives and are ultimately a spirit, forget that and come in here to be fully invested in this, fully immersed in this, thinking it's real. And it's a very good way to truly learn when you're that invested. And maybe I'll do another post about why I think life is a simulation and, certain proofs that I've found. That's for another video. So the divine part of ourselves is life. It is the life force. It is the eternal energy that we have, consciousness, soul, whatever you want to call it. It's what we take from this life and it is never destroyed. That is the side of ourselves that we are constantly given the opportunity to recognize and access. And people who do this continuously practice it on a daily basis, eventually, they will be the ones who will evolve, become enlightened, ascend. All these words ultimately mean the same thing. This is really why we're here, and that's how to do it. But it's not easy. These wonderful quotes point the way to, firstly, the correct perspective. When we have the correct perspective, it's easier to do these things because we have the reliable map. If you have a reliable map of a terrain that you're traversing, then you're going to have a much better chance of going where you're intending to go. If your map is incorrect, then there's much less likelihood you're going to go in the correct direction. And so this perspective from these quotes is very valuable. If you have the correct perspective, then life is not as confusing. You don't see it as a chore to be endured or a punishment to be endured. It's a much better perspective. It makes life much easier. And I know because I do it myself. And really, since I've fully embraced that perspective, the challenges still come, of course, they always will. But I feel so much lighter, happier, more joyful, even while going through the challenges now because of my perspective. I'm living it as much as I can every day. So thank you for joining me today. If you liked this video, please hit the like button and the subscribe button if you haven't already. I wish you all the best wherever you are in the world. I wish you love and courage on your journey. And I'll see you next time. Take care and bye for now.